guys, it's Grant, also known as Midwest Big Baits. And the reason why it's called Midwest Big Baits is because, one, I live in the Midwest, and two, I love to toss big swim baits and big baits in general to catch big fish. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the different types of swim baits that I use. I'm getting kind of stir crazy, and I got to talk about some of the things that I just love to do, and that's fish and using big baits. So we've got plenty of snow here in Minnesota, and it's going to be a long time before I actually get out on the water and do some fishing. So let's talk about some of the swim baits that I use here in the Midwest that have produced some really big bass for me. And one thing that I am is money conscious. Like, I don't want to spend a ton of money on big swim baits. And as you know, probably by now, that there are some pretty expensive swim baits out there. You got the Roman Maiden Mother, which is in the 400 range. You got the Hinkle Shad, and you've got all of these different types of swim baits that'll honestly just, for some, make you go broke. And I don't want you guys to do that. Like, I actually want you guys to get into swim baiting just like me without breaking the bank. And it's possible. It's possible to catch big fish without having to spend your entire bank account on it. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite swim baits tonight. I made a video like this about probably a year ago, talking about these bigger swim baits that I use for beginners, and I still fish a lot of these swim baits. You could say that they're for beginners, but at the same time, they just produce really big bass. And so here in the Midwest, I just moved to Minnesota. I lived in Illinois for a while, and I caught over 15 bass this last year over 5 pounds. And so that's quite an accomplishment for me. If you're down south or if you're out west or wherever you are, that's for like, oh, that's nothing. But that is a big accomplishment for me, and I know for many of you guys it would be as well. So I'm going to talk about Savage Gear. I'm going to talk about Huddlestons. I'm going to talk about the Deps 250. I'm going to talk about the S Wavers. I'm going to talk about some of these swim baits that I've never used before. So if you're interested, it's going to be a good video. All right, let's get to it. When I very first started using bigger baits, one of the first ones I ever used was right here. It's this Savage Gear. This is the 8-inch line through trout. And know what's really cool about this? Line through is, I absolutely love it. So a line through means it obviously comes through the body and is connected to there. And when you set the hook, this thing pops out. Okay? And so the reason behind that is they say that the fish does not have leverage then with this bait in its mouth. And I don't think that I've lost a fish. Once I have a fish hooked with the Savage Gear line through trout, I don't think that I've lost one. I mean, maybe I have, but I don't remember. Now, I've caught a lot of fish on this that are in the 2-pound range, some in the 3-pound range, but I've caught a lot of 4s, and I've caught quite a few 5s on this. And so this is a bait that will not break the bank, all right? Just so you guys know, this is going to be in your $10 to $15 range, and it's actually pretty sturdy. I was wondering if this thing would hold up, and it does, okay? Savage Gear line through trout. Well, they just came out not too long ago with the shad. And you've seen me do plenty of videos on this. I actually have this up here, even though it's not supposed to be here. If you've looked at some of my previous videos, you will see me talk about the shad a lot, so I'm not going to. It has a harness where it swings down like this. Caught numerous 5s this last year on this bait. This is the 7-inch, all right? I'm not going to go into detail of this one because I've made another video where you can see me catch some big bass on it. Stepping up is the 10-inch. Look at this thing. Like, honestly, guys, this is absolutely huge. I don't think that this is going to catch a bass. I'm wrong. Like, it probably will catch a bass, for sure. But it is huge. Like, it's absolutely huge. Now that I live in Minnesota, I'm going to be using this for pike and muskies. And this isn't the actual hook that goes with it. This is actually a musky hook that I put in there. And so that actually comes with a harness as well. And then what I've seen done with some of these Savage Gears is that some guys will actually, they'll put a wire through this for the muskies and the pike, and they'll actually make their own concoction of it, which is pretty neat. So I'll probably do that with this one as well, just so I have some wire through there. You can catch some of those muskies and some of those northerns as well. All right, Savage Gear, they're great. I'm going to step it up a little bit to the bigger version of the line through trout, and obviously this isn't a trout, but this is a sucker. I believe this is the Red Horse sucker that they have. So I've got 2 of these, 3 of these actually in a different color. And one of my really good muskies came off of this bait last year. And so I absolutely love this bait for muskies. I haven't caught any giant bass on the 10-inch. So this is the 10-inch, and I haven't really caught any giant bass on it. But this is already pre-rigged, and which is really nice. Fish bites it, pops out just like that. Fish can't use leverage against it. And the muskie I caught last year, it was hooked really good. All right, so just smashed it. I've got the video up. It's called Monster River Muskies. You can check it out. You can see me catch my personal best on there. I've only ever caught 3 muskies, but now that I'm in Minnesota, I'm doing a lot more muskie fishing. So Savage Gear, guys, they come out with some top quality, very high quality stuff, and it's not very expensive at all. I mean, if you're willing to pay 10 to 15, 20 to 30 bucks, they do an unbelievable job at mass production, and I love Savage Gear. Like I said, they're a cheaper bait, and a lot of us can't really afford to do a lot of the higher end stuff. And so that's a great starter bait for you guys if you're getting into the swim bait game, or if you've never tried Savage Gear. Make sure you do. Love Savage Gear. I highly recommend them. Stepping it up a bit. All right, these things have been known for quite a while. The Huddlestons. This is the 68, and so what that means is it's a 6-inch body with an 8-inch tail. See that? So there is a 6-inch with a regular 6-inch tail, but this bait has produced for me over and over and over again. Doesn't matter the size of fish, over and over and over again. Like, I love these. I'll be ordering quite a few more of the deluxes. I have quite a few of these 6-inch, so I probably won't be ordering any 6 inches. One thing that I want to try this year is solely sticking to the 8-inch, which is this guy right here. Typically, I will add a stinger hook. My first muskie that I ever caught came off of this bait, this color bait, which it was all torn up. So this isn't the actual one. This is the IU color, and I've had so many good fish on this. Caught so many big bass on it in the Midwest. Okay, a lot of guys out west use them. Guys down south use them. Guys absolutely love the Huddlestons. And so with this one, it doesn't have as much of a thump as the 68 because the body's a lot smaller, same tail size, but it's so subtle and it just has that nice little back and forth action, and the fish go crazy for it. There's plenty of videos out there with the Huddlestons that I love. Watch them. Tactical Bassin has a lot of good content on that, and then there's just many guys out there that fish the Huddlestons. Not sure about the Midwest. I know some guys fish them in the Midwest, but I love to fish them. Next up, here's what we have. The S-Waver. Okay, it's a glide bait. Back and forth in the water. This is the S-Waver. All right, it's a great glide bait that you can get for about 34 bucks on eBay. And once again, the guys in Tactical Bassin, whom I absolutely love, have done plenty of videos on the S-Wavers. And I caught my personal best bass last year on it, which is a 7-pounder, and that's pretty good for Illinois. I know that there's bigger. I've seen bigger out of Illinois, but that was the lure that drew them in. Awesome, awesome bait. This is the Deps 175. Now let's compare it to the 250. It's the 7-inch and the 10-inch. And this is just honestly so much bigger. Such a much bigger profile. Now, I've had some 175s before, and they glide great, but not as wide as the 250. They have pulled in some good fish with the 250, but I've had some of my biggest fish follow this thing in, and it has been frustrating when they don't bite it. My PBs have definitely, or would have been PBs, have followed these things all the way in without committing. And so you can draw in any pond or any lake, you can draw a big fish out with these, especially in the Midwest. You know, I know a lot of guys don't fish these in the Midwest because they don't feel like the fish are really that big here, but there are some good fish. You will catch fish of all different sizes on the Deps 250 and any of these lures for that matter. But what I'm looking for every time is to catch a 5, 6, a 7. Here in Minnesota, I think the state record for a largemouth is 8 something, 815 or something along those lines. But there's a lot of smallmouth too, a lot of big smallmouth. And so I'm excited to fish these lakes with these big smallmouth because I really haven't done a ton of smallmouth fishing in the last probably 4 or 5 years. So I've got some other swim baits that I'm going to be giving a try this year. I got the 316, the Rising Sun 316 Lure Company. I've read about these. I talked about that one the other night, so I'm not going to go into detail. The Matt Lures Hammertail. Okay, he does such an amazing job with the detail on that. And that's what I have for this year. That's what I'll be tossing. I tell you what, you don't need to go crazy. You don't need to buy every single lure. I have 2 Deps 250s, all right, and I'm not going to buy any more. Probably actually end up trading this one for a different color, but I'm not going to buy any more, guys. The Savage Gear, the Deps, the S-Wavers, they all produce. They all produce and catch big fish. Now, the thing is, the question is, does this, let's say this, does this Deps 250 attract the same thing as this? Or I should say, does this 8-inch profile bait attract the same thing as this would? And I don't know. Like, I really don't know. You know, this is a bigger profile bait, kind of more realistic looking. Throwing this in there, that does kind of the same thing, even though this has a wider, you know, side to side than the S-Waver. Will they catch the same bass? As of right now, I think they do. I could be totally wrong, and guys could be out there saying, no, you are wrong. But I do believe that you have a shot at a bigger fish with these bigger baits. You know, philosophy, big baits, big fish. I started doing it about 4 years ago, just tossing solely these bigger baits. And I can't say solely because I still do some conventional stuff every now and then, barely. But ever since I started fishing these baits, I've caught really big fish. My biggest bass have all come in the last 3 to 4 years of tossing big swim baits. So guys, if you're here in the Midwest like me and you're interested in throwing big swim baits, you don't have to go crazy. Like, you don't have to buy the best of the best of the best right away. Like, you can get into it by purchasing some of these $15, $20, $30 lures right away. And then if you want to upgrade, great. I'm not knocking any of those guys who go and spend gobs of money on it by any means. I'm saying you don't necessarily have to if you want to get started in the swim baiting, or if you're like me and you've been doing it for a few years. I'm still going to stick with what's been working. So I could be totally missing out. Maybe a $300, $400 lure is going to draw in that 10-pound bass here in Minnesota, but I highly doubt it. I think I can still go with a Deps 250, which this is my most expensive lure that I bought at about $100. I got it on a sale on eBay for about $100. So you can find some really good deals. But get into swim bait fishing. I did my gear. I talked about some of my gear the other night that I use to throw all these big swim baits. But if you're ever interested, guys, just shoot me a message me on Instagram or anything like that, and we'll talk about it. There's a lot of great information out there, a lot of great YouTubers who swim bait, and so I'm just really telling you guys what's worked for me. I don't claim to be a professional by any means. I'm just telling you guys what has worked for me, and hopefully this helps you all out. So, got to keep doing these videos until I can actually go fishing. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Have an awesome, awesome week.